Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the Ponderosa Master Plan Community Meeting. My name is Michelle Healy, and I'm the Director of Facility Development and Planning for the Santa Clara School District. First, I want to extend my thanks to each and every one of you for taking the time to be part of this important conversation. Next slide. In the next few moments, we'll explore the purpose of the significance of the master plan, recap the findings of the recent facility conditions assessment, and present the proposed unfunded master plan that will be phased. The facility conditions assessments were completed last year and identified the specific maintenance needs of the school for the next 20 years. The district completed this analysis on every district property and presented the findings to the Board of Trustees in September of 2023. Next slide. The facility assessment at Ponderosa found significant needs in updating HVAC units, modernizing classrooms, and removing portables from the campus, and also replacing the roofs of some of the permanent buildings. The facilities master plan is not just a blueprint for construction. It's a vision for the future that will shape the educational experiences for generations to come. The district is master planning every school site in the district, and all of the phases are unfunded. Future funding may come from statutory fees from developers for residential or commercial construction, community donations for capital improvements, grants, reimbursement funds from the state of California for the construction of our new schools, Agni, Huerta, and McDonald. We firmly believe that the success of this plan depends on your perspectives, visions, and concerns for the school campus. It is a collective endeavor that thrives on collaboration, and we're eager to hear your thoughts and ideas. I encourage you to be active participants, asking questions, sharing your visions, and helping us prioritize the important improvements that will make your school an even better place for our students to grow. With me tonight are Lee Pollard and Vicki Luang from HY Architects, Melissa Kirsch from the Facility Development and Planning Department, and Nathan, of course, your principal at Ponderosa. Vicki and Lee will be continuing the presentation from this point on. Please feel free to unmute and ask questions or type any questions into the chat and we will respond. And now I'll turn it over to Vicki and Lee.
Thank you, Michelle. So we wanted to start by kind of giving you a sense of the roadmap, the process that we are going through at each and every school site in Santa Clara. We start with having a meeting or meetings with the individual school sites and the principals to kind of discover the most important things about the school, what works well, what doesn't, and your goals and guiding principles for the school, in this case Ponderosa. Our next step is to develop some master plan concepts, which we did and presented to the school site in our last meeting with them, and those are our ideas on that. We will then meet again with the school site several times and refine that master plan until we have something that we have a good consensus on. And that final master plan will then go to the school board, most likely this next fall, for approval of a master plan for this campus and all the campuses in the school district. So I'd like to kind of, for those of you who were not part of our meetings with the school site, kind of give you a broad overview of what we discovered when we talked to the school, and a little bit of information before I go into kind of the options that we have developed. Some of the things that we heard in terms of this slide captures some of the comments in our first meeting, which was a virtual meeting with the school site, including issues with things like bus pickup and drop off, the trees, and the relationship between Ponderosa Park and the school, and all of the different elements of the school. Within all that, the big program needs that were identified in our discussions were the need for a bigger admin space, and together with all of the support spaces that you need to properly support all the students on the campus. The second big item is something that is a district-wide goal, and that is to replace portables at all of the campuses. And here at Ponderosa, we have 11 of them. The other item that was identified, major item that was identified, was the need for a bigger multi-purpose room, because right now it's too small to get the entire campus, the entire student body in there at one time. There's also things like improving the early learner classrooms, preschool, transitional kindergarten, and kindergarten spaces, and other needs that it would include providing appropriate space for music, a maker space, an art space, a wellness center on the campus, and one of the things we heard from the school was the need for more parking. So we came from that information that we gathered, we developed two options, and what you're seeing here is the images of those options with some of the notes from our last meeting with the school. And I'd like to kind of just walk you through these two options in just a minute. One of the things that has occurred is that we are just in the preliminary stages of talking about these options with the school site and the staff. And we haven't developed a consensus on the direction of either of these two options. There were a number of comments about them and some things that we're working on to kind of improve our layouts and enhance them, and then bring them back to the school at our next meeting in a couple of weeks. So with that, I'm going to kind of describe our first option, which the idea behind this first option would be to take the area that is at the intersection of Ponderosa and Iris Avenues, and use the existing admin building and admin and kindergarten building to create a new larger kindergarten space, and then add a building that's kind of shown as TK and preschool with a dedicated play yard for those students. We were also looking at the idea of providing a new office building to the other side of one of your existing pod buildings, and reconfiguring the parking and drop off, so we had a better drop off zone that allowed parents to queue up and pick up their students without blocking the parking space. This also allowed us to increase the number of parking on the school site. And then to the side of that new welcome center would be a new multi-purpose building that would include a full cooking kitchen that is another one of the district's priorities, music space, a flex room of about 2,000 square feet, so the school has additional space for rainy day PE or other activities, a maker space, and a garden. So this was our first option, and I haven't been checking the chat, but I don't see any comments. So I will move on to the second option, and that was in our concept in this option was kind of to try to think about the idea of changing the front of the school from Iris to Ponderosa Avenue, providing a new welcome center and wellness center there closer to the corner, but having a new larger pickup and drop off and parking area on that side of the school, with the multi-purpose building and all of the features that I described earlier, kind of down there off of Ponderosa Avenue. In this particular option, we would put the new early learner center on the upper right-hand corner, as you see. And since a lot of parents for those kids want to park and walk their kids into the classroom, we were showing a second parking lot for that purpose there next to the early learner space. One of the concerns that the committee had, the school sites committee had, was the distance between the multi-purpose and that early learner center. area for kids walking to lunch and stuff, the little kids walking to lunch. And we're looking at trying to kind of modify both of these options to address those concerns. And so that was my very brief description of the two options. We have not settled on one of them. We're going to go back to the school site group shortly and kind of talk through some updates on both of these options, but we wanted to give you as the public an opportunity to weigh in with any thoughts you might have on the campus. So I'm going to go back to the option one and ask if there's any questions or comments from the group about this one.
Hi, so I have a question that's, I guess, about both option 1 and 2. I've noted that you have 2 TKs and 3 kinder, and this might not be a question for the architects. This is probably more a district question. It feels like that's based on very like near-term thinking, and I wanted to make sure that we're thinking long-term because Ponderosa used to have 4 kinders. I heard that there were students that were overflow from kinder both this year and last year, and it just would make me feel more comfortable if numbers behind these choices could be shared.
Sure. So right now, we're planning for the 2 preschools, 2 TKs, and we're planning that at every school site. Right now, we are averaging about 1 TK per school, and then we're looking next year to expand. Some of the schools will get 2 TKs. We're actually designing all of these classrooms. So the preschool, the TK, and the kinder will all be the same design. So they'll all be oversized classrooms with bathrooms so that as the numbers of students ebb and flow, we can interchange any grade level, can use any of the classrooms. So we're looking at it a little bit more flexible than what we have now, since right now we really only have the kinder classrooms that are oversized. And none of the others. So that's our thought process behind it. We're also seeing a district-wide trend of declining enrollment, and we're seeing families moving out of the area, and we're also seeing a decline in birth rates. So those two things are compounding to make our 10-year projections decline over the district as a whole. And so we're looking at all of our schools and we're trying to make them be more so that we don't have some schools that are really large and some schools that are really small. So we're trying to design our master plan for each of the schools to be relatively similar in size.
Sorry, and this is again leading in a not architectural direction.
That's okay.
But so I guess when you said the projections for 10 years, my understanding was that this wasn't even going to be built probably until 10 years out. So don't your projections need to be for like 50 years because you want these facilities to last longer than 10 years? And then when you say you want all the schools to be same, like I think about Bowers, which is much smaller than Ponderosa. At some point, the district planning to redistrict in order to shape attendance to match these uniformly sized schools that you've created?
So that's a good question. We would love to be able to do enrollment projections 50 years out. Unfortunately, developers don't know what they're doing, usually more than about 10. We do take into account the general plan that the city has adopted, as well as any specific plans that the city has adopted. But other than that, we are restrained on our enrollment projections based on the new development coming in, and that's how we normally do it. You're correct in that this will probably be 10 years or more out. And this is a 30-year master plan. So when we're doing our best to take our assumptions now and use them to create these master plans. And then when the district actually has funding for it, we'll come back to the school site, we'll reevaluate if we need to add another TK preschool kindergarten classroom, we will. And so all of those would be very project specific. Once we have the funding for a project, we would evaluate if any of these master plans need to change or be modified at all. And then Sorry, what was your second question?
The second one
About-
was about the school size.
Oh,
Like
school size.
She mentioned Bowers.
Yes, so Bowers is very small. And some of our other schools are also, and the board at the last board meeting on January 11th, the board did approve a new committee. And it's basically going to look at attendance boundaries. And so we are starting that work now, but that would be changing attendance boundaries is a very long process. But we do now have a board, a committee within the district that has a board member on it that will start looking at attendance boundaries.
Thank you. That's really useful. Good to know because I had not heard that.
Yeah, it was presented at the December board meeting for that committee, and then it just got approved at the January 11th board meeting. And so we still haven't decided exactly the people who will be on it, but it will be a group that will start probably in the next few months. And then it will look at, so it's going to look at the projections, the 3-year, 5-year, 10-year projections, and we'll also be looking at different developments coming into the district, the general plan for all the cities that the district is in. And then we'll be looking at current attendance, as well as different programs that are occurring at different sites. So some of our sites have particular programs. Bowers has a heavy early childhood. There's a lot of preschool there. They have the infant toddler program. And then Ponderosa has some more special education students. And so we're also looking at the placement of those programs to see if it's equitable throughout the district, and if any programs like music or some other STEM, if some of those, so we're looking at the district as a whole and what each school has in relation to the other schools.
Those were all very good questions. Are there any other questions or thoughts?
Or does anyone have an opinion as to which option they like better? Or neither? And do you have a better option?
In looking at the two options, the thing I did not like about option 2 is that it seemed to take the field away. And also the 2 parking lots, I understand why there are 2, but it also just, I don't know, makes the school just seem like a giant parking lot. And there's not as much, it seems like there's not as much play area.
Okay. Thank you. Good comments.
We have, and to that, we have been discussing that the property line is almost in the middle of the parking lot for the park, on the east side. And so we have been talking about, how we could relocate the fence so that Ponderosa has more field space without completely eliminating the Little League field that's there, the baseball field that's there, and the Sunnyvale Little League uses. So we are discussing that, trying to figure out how we could get Ponderosa more field space without interrupting the games that happen on the baseball field. So we're still brainstorming on that.
I think I'm still like processing the 2 options, but one question that I do have is, we talked about whenever funding for this occurs, if enrollments look different, is option 1 as flexible for being able to add additional kinder or a different mix? Because it feels more constrained in that corner as opposed to option 2. It seemed like you have more space to make changes.
That is true. There is more space down in option 2 to grow that early learner area. A little bit less space here. We had talked about the idea of being able to squeeze at least one more classroom in here where my cursor is. But that's a good point. We can kind of think about that a little bit and take that thought back to the school site as well.
And from my understanding, is it mainly just adjustments to either option 1 or option 2, or is it just this is what's being put out there and based on community feedback, there could be option 3 or 4 others?
Well, based on feedback, there could be option 3 or 4. We still have we are still working on adjusting both of these plans based on the feedback that we've gotten so far. And we're going to take whatever comments we have here and include that in our thinking and modify these plans some more. As Michelle mentioned, we are kind of talking about the boundary between the school and Ponderosa Park. We are also kind of trying to figure out how to best utilize both the hard court and field space on the site towards the bottom of the screen that you're looking at.
So to further on that answer, most likely we will come back probably in a month or 2 with another community meeting, showing 1 or 2 more options after we've met the school site again. And then eventually, whatever option is kind of approved by consensus, we will take to the school board in probably the fall of this year or early in 25 and get them all approved as one whole district-wide master plan. Are there any other questions or comments? I know it's a lot of information in a short amount of time. So these will be put up. Ponderosa has a master plan website, and there is a link on the Ponderosa website, and then the master plans are linked to the facility development and planning website. This presentation will be uploaded, and the recording will probably be uploaded sometime next week. So once, if you get out of here and you have questions, you can refer back to it on the website. And please tell the rest of your community, your friends, your neighbors about it. We really do want to get as much input as possible on these plans, because the more input we get, the better resulting master plan we get. And you can always email us any comments at scusdmasterplans@scusd.net. And Melissa added those to the chat, so you can copy them down. They're also on the website and always in these presentations. So we'll hang on for a few more minutes in case there's other comments or questions. But other than that, our presentation is done, and we really appreciate all the questions that we did receive. And thank you for taking time out of your evening to join us.
Thanks, Michelle. Thanks, team. And thanks, parents, for coming in and joining us. Appreciate your guys' feedback, input, and being a part of the process.
Thanks, Nathan.
I just had one more thought on the 2 options. The option that had the front of the school moving to Ponderosa, that is directly across from a couple houses, whereas the way it is now, it's not really directly across from houses.
Right.
So I feel like that would be hard for the people who have lived there for years. The way it is now, it's the side of a fence and the end of a street. So I think that's less impactful on the neighborhood as it is right now.
That's a great thought.
You go back to this is the way it is now.
Yeah.
Yes, moving the multi-purpose room in a significant fashion, like in option number 2, does really change the character along Ponderosa Avenue.